Hello, welcome. Welcome to my live stream. I can't see any of the comments, but it's being recorded. So if you're out there, say hey, send some hearts, send some likes. Today we're actually going to present stories from my book, Dallas, Texas Black History, Uncensored, live right here in Dallas, Texas. And we're at the African American Museum in Dallas, right at Fair Park. So I'm going to present it in front of a live audience today, talk about some of the best scandals and crime stories that I uncovered doing my research. And we're just waiting for some people to get here. But in the meantime, I'm talking to you because, you know, we go live and we do this together. So just grab something to drink, grab something to eat. We're going to spend about an hour talking. I'm going to tell some of my best stories. I'm going to have a good time. So yeah, if you're out there, I'm excited to share some of my professional work with the Dallas, Texas community. And I worked a long time for this. Okay, I worked a long time for this. I remember about six months ago, I actually volunteered. I was like, hey, put me on your schedule for Black History Month. I want to present some of my stories. This was before I even finished my Black History book. Dallas, Texas, Black History. So this is my book, and this is my truth, crime, and scandal presentation. I hope you can see it. I hope it is all right. I don't know if they need to turn these lights down a little bit so you can see, because I think I would like that. But anyway, I am Te-Erika. I'm an author. I consider myself to be a human rights activist. I love to, I care about people, and I care about our society, and I care about whether or not people can prosper, and if they're mentally healthy. These are things that are very important to me. I have two sons, Sai and Solomon. Shout out to Sai, Solomon. And they're very important to me. And besides that, I just create content. I'm a content creator. So right now I'm just saying all this before the audience even it gets here, before everything started. I'm just engaging you, my audience on YouTube, who always shows up for me, so I want to make sure that you guys know that I'm here. I'm waving, and this time you see full body shot. Boom, boom, boom. How your girl doing? I'm here in Dallas, Texas, and for now, but I'm enjoying myself. Hey, good afternoon and welcome. Hello. Awesome. Are you guys all family?
Yes.
How cool is that? What a great way to spend a Saturday afternoon. That's what's up. Beautiful.
I'm not gonna break.
Mark.
I have not heard of this. So,
You know what I'm talking about.
it was so delicate.
Mark is always welcome. Yeah, just a few more moments and we'll get started. And I'm just excited for this. And it's just been like, since last year, I told him, put me on that schedule. It's like it's 3 months. And he was like, okay, Te-Erika, geez. So he did. And we're going to have a good time today because I like to have fun. So, yeah. Can you see this all right? Does it look blurry? Do we need to turn the lights down?
It looks a little bit blurry.
All right.
I still see it.
Okay, well, yeah, to me it looks.
The top part's okay, it's the bottom, like towards the bottom on the corners.
Okay, so yeah, okay.
Just the light.
Okay, see, I was thinking the same thing. So when he comes down here again, I'll ask him if he'll adjust the light a little bit so we can see. It's not like, I mean, yeah, we're gonna watch a couple. I have made some videos, but for the most part, I'm a storyteller. So I'm gonna just tell my story. So yeah.
I'm taking notes because I tell good stories too.
You do?
Yes.
Okay. Do you tell stories on social media?
No, just in person. No, in person. They half the time they're not.
Oh, so you make it on social media. That's how some of the best content creators happen.
Everybody wants a little pepper and salt with their steak.
Yes, get out there. Tell everybody your story, even if it ain't true. They don't care. That's how you make the most money. Hello and welcome. Amazing. How are you?
Doing well, just being nosy.
Okay, well, I'm doing true crime, scandals, and mayhem. Talking about the drama that happened hundreds of years ago because it was some drama, just like it was today.
Can I bring Exodus in?
You can bring kids in here. We about to talk about the drama now.
Yeah, I'm about to see. You're about to do a session.
There was some arguing and fighting, girl. Yes, it was wild. It was wild back in the day. I bet you wouldn't even think about it. Like, who thought about 100 years ago how wild they were? They was pretty wild. Arguing and fighting, yes, honey. Welcome.
Okay, you got time to kill. Wow.
Don't give me a stage.
Hey. Go.
Da, 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 da. I love it. Hello and welcome. Thank you for coming. All right, Mr. Delaney. Mr. Delaney, my audience is saying that the lights are blurring part of the screen. Now, can we turn it a little bit down a little bit?
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Delaney. Do y'all know Mr. Delaney? Oh my God! That man who just walked in, he's like the head honcho.
Well, we
He's
need
the
to know
one in
him.
charge. Y'all need to know him. He's the one to say yay or nay. You can't get past these doors without him.
Let's see.
You want that?
Yes, that's
Perfect.
perfect.
All right.
This one in the 4K.
Ah, yeah.
Okay.
That's it, yeah.
Okay, sure.
That's it. Now we can see, I mean, yeah. Are we gonna get started? I think it's about time. You want to get started?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so. Mr. Delaney, is it okay if we get started?
Yes.
Awesomeness. Good evening.
I'll
Okay.
introduce you.
Okay, go
But you
ahead.
can introduce yourself if you
Okay.
want to. All right.
Okay, I'm already up here, so I'll do that. Good afternoon and welcome. I am Te-Erika. I am actually the author of a book called Dallas, Texas Black History Uncensored. I went through the entire timeline of Dallas, Texas Black history, and I wrote a book about it to create a collection of some of the most amazing stories I could find. It talks about the evolution of Dallas, Texas from the time that we instituted the city until today. So it's a great book, but today I wanted to focus on true crimes from Black history. People don't really talk about that kind of stuff. When we think about Black history, we don't think about these amazing stories. So let's get started. Let's see if I'm doing this right. Okay, that's right. Let's talk. Can you guys see? I know you're over here in the corner.
Yeah,
You
we
still
can
see? Okay. So I am going to present 9 scandalous stories from Dallas, Texas Black history for today's presentation of Dallas, Texas true crime, scandals, and mayhem. So the first thing I want to talk about today, just to lay a foundation for what we're going to see, is what is Black history? Does anybody want to answer that? What does Black history mean to you? If you don't, because you don't want to be on the spot, you didn't prepare, that's fine. I'll go ahead and answer that. To me, Black history is a record of the lifestyles of Black Americans in the United States. It's just the lifestyle that we've lived, the choices that we've made, the trials that we have gone through. And there are so many, and Black history generally focuses on all of that. But today I want to focus on true crime and scandals. But why? Why is that important? Well, to me, true crime and scandals is important because of humanity. When you think about people who commit crimes, they commit crimes out of desperation. And when you understand what a person is desperate for, you can understand them much better. It gives you great insight into their souls. So these stories are amazing. Today we're always reading the news. I know I am a content creator as well, and I'm constantly posting stories about trending news and gossip, all the wildest things that are happening today. But when we think about it, nothing we're going through now is new under the sun. So 100 years before, they were still doing the same wild things that we're doing today. And it's so amazing when I discovered them doing my research. Well, let me get into it. I have to give a trigger warning. Some of the stories I will tell today will depict gruesome crimes, hurtful crimes, things that may make you feel uncomfortable, may remind you of things that have happened in your past. So I'm going to give an overall general trigger warning so that you know this is not an easy presentation to listen to. And I also want to let you know the trigger warning is because I like to cuss a little bit. So I hope you guys aren't offended by that, but I might be like, girl, there was some craziness over here. But I want to just be myself doing this. So I give a firm trigger warning to let you guys know this is not rated G. Okay? Here we go. These are the 9 scandalous stories that I'm going to present from Dallas, Texas Black history, Sweet Sister, the Black Beret, the Plot Twist, the Chinaman's Revenge, and so on and so on. All of these stories are very brief, about a minute to 2 minutes. And I have a few videos inside of there. Each of those will last about 3 to 5 minutes, but the entire presentation should take about 40, 45 minutes. So we won't be in here all day, but I guarantee that we will be thoroughly entertaining. So you ready? Y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right, we're about to get started with some scandalous stories from Dallas, Texas Black history. And here we go. Let's start in 1904 with a story called Sweet Sister. On November 25th, 1904, Matilda Reed Armstrong, who was born in 1871, was the wife of Dr. Samuel Walter Armstrong, a prominent Negro physician right here in North Dallas. She was shot and killed by her husband's younger sister, Pollyanna Reed. On November 25th, 1904, Dr. Samuel Walter Armstrong, a prominent Dallas physician, returns home to find his house on fire. He calls out for his wife, Matilda, but he doesn't hear anything. And just as he's about to run inside the house, neighbors run out and call his name, telling him that Matilda is at their home. She's not okay. They scream, "Hurry, come over!" Well, when Dr. Armstrong walks into their home, he finds his wife, Matilda, covered in blood and passed out on the floor. As he leans down to attend to her, the neighbors explain that they have heard several gunshots, and then Matilda came running out of their house, screaming over to their neighbors. As Dr. Armstrong works on his wife, trying to revive her, he's trying to make sense of who would try to hurt her. Matilda was his first and real true love. She worked in the community. She was kind to everyone. He didn't understand who could have done this, who could have wanted her dead. He noticed that she had bullet wounds in her chest, but she still had a pulse and she was still breathing. Then, in a sudden burst of energy, she opened her eyes, looked at him, and then closed them one last time, breathing her last. Dr. Armstrong wept with his deceased wife in his arms. The neighbors came in and told him that they had put out the fire at his home. He gently laid his wife down and walked outside to look at his charred home. Just then, another neighbor walked up with a little boy about 8 years old. The neighbor explained that her son had run home, telling her about the house being on fire, but also saying that he saw Dr. Armstrong's sister, Pollyanna, and her husband, Willie Green, running away from the house and into the woods. But when police caught up with Dr. Armstrong's sister, Pollyanna, and her husband, she confessed to running into the house, ambushing Matilda when they knew she was alone, and then they shot her. He said that Matilda had always been cruel to Polly, and she was angry with Matilda because Matilda was snooty. Well, Willie Green went to prison for the crimes, and Pollyanna, she remained free. And Dr. Armstrong, he never spoke to his little sister again because she killed his wife. And that's the story of the sweet sister, and it's a true story from Dallas, Texas. The next story is called The Black Beret. Have you guys heard about the Dallas Black Panther leader who became notorious for being brutal and turning against his own people? Well, let me give you a little bit of backstory. The original Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, which was known as the BPP, was founded in October 1966 in Oakland, California by Huey P. Newton and Bobby Seale, who was also a Dallas native. Their aim was to promote black nationalism, socialism, and armed self-defense against the racist police. Their movement was short-lived due to poor management, yet the idea was quickly brought to Dallas by Curtis Gaines. Curtis Gaines was the self-described leader of the Dallas chapter of the Black Panther Party. By 1970, he was all over the city. He had organized a free breakfast program for the children in West Dallas, sponsored by the Welfare Rights Organization, and he became known to be committed to the betterment of his community. Well, while organizing those community activities, he also proved he had a dark side, because he gained a reputation as a brutal leader who would stop at nothing to make it clear he was in total control. In November 1970, a man named Johnny Harrington, just 22 years old, he lived in the same apartment building as Curtis Gaines on Illinois Street. As his neighbor, Johnny knew what kind of man Curtis was and what he was doing around town with his Black Panther Party, and he didn't like it. Well, Johnny's girlfriend became involved in the Black Panther Party, and Johnny was upset about it. He didn't want the woman he loved to be involved in those shady dealings. So he eventually convinced her to stop participating in the Black Panther Party activities. Well, according to reports from the Dallas Morning News, Curtis Gaines had sent multiple threatening letters to the woman, letting her know that she was not allowed to leave the party. After several threats, Johnny went to speak to Curtis about it directly. He told him to leave his girlfriend alone, and Curtis Gaines said, okay. Immediately, Johnny went back upstairs to his apartment, and Curtis made a phone call. When Johnny heard the slamming of a car door and the boots of men walking, he looked out the front window and saw 10 men jump out of a blue truck and line up in the courtyard. And all of them had guns. Curtis stood in the front of the line and raised his pistol. Like a choreographed drill, the men all aimed at Johnny's apartment. Curtis fired the first shot, and then sounds of bullets flying filled the courtyard. Johnny dove on the floor, and it sounded like bombs were going off. The ground was shaking, and later firemen reported that they saw smoke rising into the sky from the hail of bullets that was spraying into his apartment. After the shooting stopped, the gunmen threw their weapons in one truck, jumped into another, and left Curtis Gaines behind. He didn't even dare to leave and flee the scene. Well, Curtis Gaines was arrested, and he was released quickly on a $2,500 bond, while one of the other men was also arrested, but he remained in jail. Word on the street was that Curtis had left his friend to rot in jail for the crime that he had initiated. Once an all-powerful leader with dozens of men in his street army, this Black Panther Party leader, Curtis Gaines, was annihilated. The Black Panther Party started to describe him as a pig, and they spread the word on the street that he only pretended to be a soldier for the people. And he was actually an informant working for the FBI. Curtis Gaines. This next story is called The Plot Twist. And this woman that I'm about to show a video about proves that no matter how evil the enemy is, you can always turn their actions around for good.
Asking for white in the general South guaranteed a perfect life? For Pearl C. Anderson, it wasn't as simple as it seemed. That was Texas Black history, uncensored. Born on August 18th, 1898 in Wynn Parish, Louisiana, Pearl was the daughter of Nettie Bowden, a black midwife, and a white physician named Thibodeau. Her early years were spent with her maternal grandmother on a small farm in rural Louisiana. As a child, Pearl worked the land, chopping cotton and pulling peanuts. There were no schools nearby, so Pearl taught herself to read and write by practicing writing letters in the dust. When Pearl was 12, a Rosenwald school opened a few miles from her home, which allowed her to have a formal education. In 1919, at the age of 21, Pearl left Louisiana to move to Dallas, all alone, hoping for more opportunity as a black woman than she would have been offered in Louisiana. With meager savings, she moved to South Dallas and bought a plot of land. She found a lumberyard owner who agreed to loan her lumber to build a grocery store after noticing that the neighborhood did not have one. The store was a success, and within 4 years, Pearl had paid off the loan. She rented the store, sold the stock, and moved on to work at an ice house. Her light complexion allowed her to pass for white, and the ice house owner introduced her as his cousin so that she could be more accepted in white society. While working at the ice house, Pearl became ill. Because she was not actually white, she had to see a black physician. When she walked into Dr. John Wesley Anderson's office, he looked at her and fell in love. The two married in 1929 and even welcomed a child together, a daughter. But sadly, their daughter died in childhood. Devastated, Pearl continued to support her husband in his business and civic duties. As his business boomed, rumors began to circulate that her black husband had acquired new clients, white men who wore robes and burned crosses. Pearl wondered about the rumors but never addressed them directly. Dr. Anderson's will grew to heights they could not have imagined, and he became one of the most wealthy black physicians in Dallas. After 17 years of marriage, Dr. Anderson passed away. As she grieved the loss of the love of her life, Pearl had to decide what to do with the wealth that she had inherited. His estate included valuable properties in downtown Dallas that were worth millions. Instead of hoarding the wealth, Pearl remembered the support she had received through the Rolling Wall Funded School, and in 1955, she made a generous gift to help the poor in Dallas. Pearl's philanthropy earned her national attention, and she continued to give. She set up scholarships for black students at Bishop College and supported causes that helped black youth and families. The wealth Pearl generously poured into the black Dallas community may have come from the pockets of hateful men, but Pearl used it to lift up the very people they tried to destroy. That was Texas Black History, uncensored.
All right. So you get that plot twist? This woman was married to a man who was working for the KKK, and he amassed millions of dollars in his lifetime. But guess what happened? When he passed away, she used that money to give to the black community, and she enriched the black community with it. Now that's the kind of plot twist I like. All right, our next story, the Chinaman's Revenge. And the only reason I use this term is because the newspapers use these terms. I got all of these stories directly from newspapers. I looked them up myself. I was reading the newspapers from hundreds of years ago, and these are the stories that I found. Let's see. No one knows exactly how this altercation began. Some say that a black man was a former employee of the Chinese restaurant owner located on Hervé Street, and others say he was a customer. But witnesses recall that the restaurant owner argued intensely with this black man. The black man yelled at him and threw a firecracker inside the restaurant, scaring all the customers. The black man disappeared, and the restaurant owner and the staff cleaned the place up. And the restaurant owner vowed if he saw that man again, he would kill him. To his surprise, the black man did come back. He charged into the restaurant and hit the restaurant owner over the head with a brick. The restaurant owner dashed behind the counter for his gun, but by the time he turned around, the black man was gone. So the restaurant owner rushed outside to the street so he could find him, but he couldn't. In a fit of rage, the Chinese restaurant owner locked eyes on a random black man. He cocked his gun and he fired, shooting him in the head and killing him instantly. John Thomas was the innocent victim that paid the price for another man's crime. This is a true story. This story is from 1916, and I call it Black Justice. A woman by the name of Zayola Mae Kramer, a 23-year-old white nurse, was found strangled to death on the campus of Oak Cliff High School on March 26, 1916. This nurse was returning from a call to take care of someone who was sick in North Texas, and then she took her bus back to Oak Cliff. As she crossed the Oak Cliff High School lawn on the way back to her home, she was attacked, strangled to death, and left on the ground. The contents of her suitcase and her handbag were strewn on the ground, but nothing of value was missing. Her body was found the next day by the school janitor as he did his morning rounds. While officers worked for weeks gathering clues, they determined that no evidence of sexual assault was found, and then they immediately began arresting random black men in the area so they could question them. Well, only a Negro could do such a thing, or so they assumed. The biggest clue they had was a cheap brass tie pin. The undertaker removed it from Miss Kramer's hair. The criminal's pin, which was typically used to tie men's tied together, had become tangled in her hair during their struggle. The detectives believed that if they could find out who owned that pen, then they would find their attacker, but they had no luck. Suddenly, Dallas officials received word that a man arrested in Woodville, Oklahoma, confessed that he and 2 other men were responsible for Miss Kramer's murder. Although they had a full confession, the Dallas police disregarded it. And they said, he's not the one, we're gonna find him. Then, the police received word that a man already in custody here in McKinney had information about the murder. The man's name was Houston Wagner. He had been jailed for robbing a post office in Plano, and after several days of intense questioning, he confessed to murdering Miss Kramer. Police say that Wagner told them he meant to rob her, but when she began to scream, he tried to quiet her and ended up strangling her. And when she fell limp, he ran away. And Wagner said that since then he could not sleep because he kept having nightmares of white men placing a rope around his neck and leading him to a fire. While incarcerated under intense supervision, Houston Wagner also made another confession to killing another man by the name of W.H. Humphreys, a storekeeper in Lisbon. He confessed that he had beat him over the head with a stove of wood, and he was going to murder his daughter, Mrs. Towers. This was a crime committed in South Oak Cliff. Dallas police ignored a written confession from a man in Oklahoma, and he was able to get a local black man captured in Plano to confess to Zeola Kramer's murder in Oak Cliff and a storekeeper's murder in Lisbon. Were any of these real confessions or simply their version of black justice? This next story is called The Brotherhood. How could a black man escape being lynched by a white mob in 1903? It will only take a miracle, and that's exactly what happened.
How did a black preacher from Dallas manage to save himself from being lynched by a white mob? For Reverend David Reed Stokes, it took more than a miracle. Dallas, Texas Black History, uncensored. In 1903, Reverend David Reed Stokes was a prominent preacher from Dallas, Texas, known not only for his fiery sermons, but also for his ability to connect with everyday people. Reverend Stokes decided to travel from town to town to deliver an important message. He believed prohibition wasn't a moral crusade. It was a mission for control. Prohibition was a movement created to ban the sale and distribution of alcohol. Supporters believed banning alcohol would end domestic violence fueled by drunken rage. They believed that it would improve poverty because men wouldn't spend their earnings in saloons. And of course, they believed drunkenness was a sin against Almighty God. But Reverend Stokes didn't believe that. He believed that banning alcohol allowed the government to indirectly target black communities by giving police unlimited authority to arrest any black person they thought was drunk, while criminalizing those who made a living selling alcohol. This led to job loss and unfair incarceration. Reverend Stokes had to speak out against prohibition, so he did. He traveled and spoke in towns all across Texas, large and small, in fields and community churches too. He spoke to every black person he could find to encourage them to vote against prohibition to save themselves. On February 25th, 1903, Reverend Stokes arrived in Gregg County, where tensions around prohibition were especially high. His arrival did not go unnoticed. A group of white men who were staunch supporters of prohibition viewed his message as a threat to their agenda. Before he had the chance to address the crowd, the men ambushed him. They dragged him from the meeting site, hauling him into a dense patch of woods. In the woods, the mob tied him to a tree, their faces twisted with anger anger and hatred. They surrounded him, hurling racial slurs, spitting on him, and pelting him with stones. Reverend Stokes was a man of great faith, but in that moment, he was terrified. With no one nearby to call for help and no way to escape, he did the only thing he could do. He called out to God in prayer, asking for deliverance, but the mob was unmoved. The men closed in on him, their shouts growing louder. Reverend Stokes began to cry. He thought of his wife and children at home and how he might never get to see them again. In a final act of desperation, he made a subtle gesture, a signal of distress used by members of the Masonic order. One of the men in the mob froze after he saw him hold up that sign. The man himself was a Mason, and he recognized the signal immediately. His expression shifted from rage to shock. He stepped forward and placed himself between Reverend Stokes and the other men. The crowd fell silent. For a moment, it seemed as though the mob might reject him, but gradually, their anger subsided. Eventually, they relented, untying Reverend Stokes and allowing him to leave. Before letting him go, they issued a stern warning: never, ever come back to Gregg County again. His body was bruised and his spirit shaken, but his life was spared, thanks to the Brotherhood. That was Texas Black History, uncensored.
That's a real story. This next story is called Hush Little Baby. And this happened in 1883. A black single mother received an invitation to a fancy ball in 1883, and she could not believe her luck. She knew how to sew and do her hair, and she could borrow her friend's new coat, so she was excited about getting this chance to get out the house. The only issue was she couldn't figure out what to do with her 6-year-old son. She had no one she could trust to watch him, so she could go to the ball. So she decided to do what she had heard other mothers did when their children were fussy. She gave her son a dose of laudanum, an opium that people use to help them sleep. She figured he would be knocked out the entire night and she would return before he woke up. Things went as planned. She got dressed, kissed her son goodnight, and gave him the dose of laudanum. He told her he loved her before drifting off to sleep. She went to the ball. She had a blast, dancing and laughing, enjoying the attention of men, and feeling like a beautiful woman for once. By the time she returned home, she had a smile on her face. She undressed and went to check on her son. He looked so peaceful there in his bed. She leaned forward to kiss his forehead when she noticed that he felt clammy. Her fingers touched his cheeks, his hands, and then she began to shake him. Her son was limp as she grabbed him up, trying desperately to wake him. But he never woke up. She had overdosed him on laudanum so that she could have fun at the ball. True crime. This one is called Homebound Dallas. It's about the Negro housing crisis. So, you know, at some point, there was a problem. Black people needed homes. It was a time of segregation. How could they find homes in Dallas, Texas? This video shares what happened.
Dallas, Texas managed the housing crisis for black families. During segregation, for the Walker family, finding a new home meant risking their lives. Dallas, Texas Black History, uncensored. In 1865, the United States of America formally recognized that black people were humans too. Emancipation allowed black residents of Dallas, Texas to choose where they wanted to live for the first time. Now that they were free men, most black families in Dallas settled together in freedmen towns. Freedmen towns were located in North Dallas, the area now known as Uptown. As years passed, the black population in Dallas grew exponentially, and so did their earning power. However, The freedom towns did not expand to keep up with this growth. As black residents of Dallas gained higher education and professional training, their incomes grew, but housing remained scarce. Many began dreaming of leaving the old deteriorating homes in freedom towns for the more spacious, elegant houses in South Dallas, but South Dallas wasn't ready for them. South Dallas was a racially segregated community of white and Jewish families. Although black families believed that they could move there if they were professionals and paid fair prices for the homes, they were wrong. In September of 1940, the Walker family moved to a home at 3616 Howell Street in South Dallas. As their moving van pulled into their driveway, a crowd of white neighbors, led by a tribe of housewives, stood in the street throwing rocks at the family, shattering their windows and shouting threats. The police had to intervene with the angry women who had no remorse for their actions. They believed that black families did not belong in their neighborhood, and they vowed to let them know directly. For months, the white housewives terrorized the families, hoping to scare them away. More aggressive neighbors threw a makeshift bomb into the Walker's yard, and the explosion blew out their windows. The Walkers had to arm themselves inside their own home. Across Dallas, several bombs were placed in the homes of black families, which caused the NAACP to step in and speak out. Despite the attacks, the Walker family refused to leave Howell Street. Angry and defeated, the white housewives packed up and moved away. The first incident of white flight in Dallas. Dallas city officials soon recognized they had a housing crisis on their hands. The black population was increasing rapidly, yet black people weren't welcome to live in those neighborhoods. Dallas officials created a plan to provide segregated housing for black families without upsetting their white neighbors. The first public housing for black residents was called the Roseland Homes. It opened in North Dallas in 1942 with 650 units. Over the next decade, more black housing projects followed. In West Dallas, Edgar Ward Place. In East Dallas, Fraser Courts. In South Dallas, Turner Courts and Rose Terrace. Hundreds of black families moved into these housing projects, and for a while, the city was pacified. It was still a matter of what to do with more affluent black families who had the means to purchase homes in white neighborhoods. A Jewish banker named Fred Florence saw the challenges black professionals in Dallas faced in finding quality housing, and he also recognized the opportunity in creating a solution. Florence determined that it would be mutually beneficial to create a neighborhood specifically for upperly mobile black families. He took the lead in securing loans to finance the development of a groundbreaking alternative to public housing. This would become the first planned neighborhood with new construction homes reserved for black residents of Dallas. Civic leader Carl Hoblitzell joined the initiative by funding the land purchases and infrastructure necessary to bring the neighborhood to life. Named the neighborhood Hamilton Park after Dr. Richard Theodore Hamilton, a civil rights activist from Dallas. Hamilton Park was designed with beauty and intention. Every home was a single-story structure with 3 bedrooms, front and backyards, and attached garages. By 1956, Hamilton Park was the home to more than 250 black families, offering them a safe, beautiful community to enjoy life in Dallas. After 100 years of housing segregation in Dallas, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 banned racial discrimination in public places. This meant that black people could live wherever they wanted to. Despite systemic efforts to oppress black progress, every decade, more barriers fell away. Dallas, Texas Black History, uncensored.
Our ninth and final story, I told you we'll get through them fast, is called Dead Lovers Blues. What would you do if the man you loved was being loved by someone else? Oh Lord. For Hattie Burleson, she only had one choice. In 1917, small town girl Hattie Burleson was barely 20 years old, and she was chock full of ambition. She grew up in the quiet countryside of Kaufman County, yet she dreamt of a life in the spotlight. And in order to do that, she knew she had to make it to Dallas. Oh, God. In Dallas, the air was thick with opportunity. And it didn't take long for Hattie to meet a man named William Elisha King. Who was he? Well, he wasn't just any man. Mr. King was one of the most prominent black leaders in Dallas. He was the editor of the Dallas Express, the most respected black newspaper west of the Mississippi. He was handsome, charismatic, and he was always impeccably dressed. He was known as a powerful voice for black Texans, a man whose words could stir crowds and command respect. As soon as she met him, at 20 years old, Hattie was captivated. King was a bachelor in his mid-40s, and he was equally drawn to her youthful energy and determination. She became his personal secretary, managing the boarding house he owned next door to the Dallas Express news office on Smith Avenue. By day, Hattie handled his business affairs with precision, and by night, she accompanied him to public and private events, always standing at his side, often dressed in elegant gowns. But their relationship wasn't just professional. It wasn't long before the whispers began. People noticed how close they were, how Hattie looked at him with adoration, and how he relied on her in every aspect of his life. She loved him wholeheartedly, fiercely, in a way that left no room for anyone else. And maybe that was a problem, because Mr. King had a wandering eye. Despite her devotion, Mr. King enjoyed the attention of other women. He wasn't cruel about it, but he didn't hide it either. He was William Elisha King, after all, a man accustomed to admiration. For Hattie, his casual infidelity was unbearable. She endured the whispers, the glances, the nights he didn't come home to her. But when he had a streetcar accident in 1919 and he chose to recover at another woman's home, something inside of Hattie just snapped. It wasn't just that he had gone to another woman for care. It was the public humiliation. Everybody knew. As Hattie sat in the boarding house that she managed and he owned, just steps away from his office, she felt betrayed. By August 20th, 1919, the rage was too much to contain. And that Wednesday afternoon, Hattie told a friend to drive her to 2811 Floral Street, the home where King was recovering under the care of another woman. She steps outside the car, composed, but she was burning inside. She knocked on the door, and when it opened, she walked in as though she belonged there. Mr. King was seated, dressed, and ready for dinner. His charming smile faded as he saw her. "What are you doing here?" he asked, surprised and a little bit annoyed. She didn't answer. She just started confronting her, her voice shaking with anger. She wanted to know why he chose someone else to care for him when she was right there doing it the whole time. Why had he humiliated her? Why, after everything she had done for him, she wasn't enough? The argument escalated quickly, with King saying, "Yo, chill out," dismissing her concerns. Well, she felt brushed off, and she didn't want to feel like another one of his admirers. In a flash, Hattie reached into her bag and pulled out a .38 caliber pistol. Without hesitation, she aimed it at him and shot him once in the chest. The bullet tore through him at point-blank range. He slumped over, gasping for air, and the commotion caused the lady of the house who was taking care of him to run into the room, and she started screaming as she saw him bleeding out. Hattie, calm as ever, took the pistol back into her bag and walked out the door. She didn't run. She didn't panic. She just stepped out onto the street and flagged down the car and left. By the time the police arrived, William Elisha King was dead. Hattie went to a friend's house, changed out of her blood-stained clothes, and then walked over to the police office to turn herself in. As news of the murder spread like wildfire, everybody in Dallas was shocked, both white and black, because everybody knew who Mr. King was. The news even reported that the directors of 2 black funeral homes in Dallas got into a physical fight over who got to take his body. They were fighting. The People's Undertaking Company, they won the fight, and they prepared Mr. King to be sent home to Meridian, Mississippi, where he would be buried with his father and mother. Hattie was charged with murder, and the headlines were sensational all around the country. Mr. King had been a news publisher for more than 30 years, and he had met his demise at the hands of a 20-something woman who used to be his secretary? What a scandal! At Hattie's preliminary trial, the courtroom buzzed with rumors. She claimed self-defense, pointing to her petite stature. She's barely 4.5 feet tall. And she said, oh no, she could have never done anything like that unless she was threatened. The jury won it. Despite the uproar in the black community over his death, Hattie walked away with a 5-year suspended sentence. The verdict shocked Dallas. A young woman had killed one of the city's most prominent black leaders, and she had gotten away with it. But instead of retreating into obscurity, she leaned into her infamy. She reinvented herself, first as a blues singer, and then she became famous when she opened the Green Parrot, which was a dance hall in Deep Ellum. But even more sinister was the fact that Hattie pledged her innocence in the murder of Mr. King. Yet one of her most popular songs was called Dead Lovers Blues. And that is the end of my presentation today. So yes, I want to thank you all for watching and for coming and enjoying here at the African American Museum during Black History Month. If you want to order a copy of Dallas Black History, I apologize, I was not able to get copies physically today. The order did not come in time. But if you want to order tonight, you can go to my website, DTX Black History. They're also on Amazon. But if you order from me directly, I get the money faster. That's how I'm saying. But if you use code AAMD, I'll give you free shipping just to make up for the fact that the books are not here if you order that today. And that expires tonight at midnight. The code AAMD at DTX Black History. If you want to connect with me, dtxblackhistory@gmail.com is my direct email. Say hi. And you guys, I am a content creator. I tell stories on social media every day. I'm on TikTok, Facebook. I'm telling gossip, drama, trending news. I'm having a good time. Look me up. My name is Te-Erika, and follow me. It was such a pleasure with you guys today. You have a question?
Yes, will you autograph it if we do it today?
That's the thing. I don't have any copies today. They didn't come in
They
time.
come from a fulfillment.
Yeah, they didn't come in time. I ordered some to bring today, but they didn't come in time, so I apologize. Yes, ma'am. Does anybody have any questions? We can chat.
Can you turn on that first screen and stand by this so I can get your photo?
Oh, okay. This one? Yeah. Okay, can you turn the lights back down? Or that's good? That's good, I think. Okay. Yeah. I look cute. I look cute. Somebody better affirm me.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, girl, you got it.
I don't be taking pictures. I don't leave the house. Okay. I'm a researcher. I need it now. Does anybody else have any questions about today's presentation or Dallas, Texas Black History in general? Because I literally wrote a book about it. Because it's my thing. So ask me anything. Pardon me? You already follow me on TikTok?
I know, I'm like crazy.
Te-Erika with the T. Follow for more. That's me. I be on TikTok going on Te-Erika with the T. Follow for more. You follow me too? Ah, you already following me. That's right. Y'all gonna love my stories. I be having a good time. Yes, ma'am.
The Dallas side, do you have family like going back in Dallas?
Personally, I'm not from Dallas. I'm not from Dallas. I actually love Black history so much that I decided to travel around the country to preserve the local Black history of different cities. And Dallas was the city that I chose, so I spent some time here researching and writing this book. This is my second Black History book.
Okay.
Yes, my second. Where are you from? I'm originally from Miami, Florida.
All
Yes,
about the
originally
you.
from a long time ago. You are too? Okay, what part?
Northwest 48 on Second Ave. It
48?
used to be little Haiti, but now
Okay,
it's gentrified now.
okay, Little Haiti. Oh, Little Haiti is
Right by
gentrified.
Edison.
Oh, that's gentrified now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I haven't been back in a
Oh,
long
yeah.
time, honey. I'm from Liberty City.
Gone. That's called Hollywood or something. They made it into a little art deco.
Oh, wow, okay. It's been a while. Anybody else have any questions or anything they want to ask or say about any of the stories? Did any of the stories speak to you in particular? Anyone you was fascinated by, or did you think I did a good job?
Yeah.
Awesome. For those videos I made them myself. I spent them hours living to make all those videos. So I just enjoyed this entire project. I find Dallas to be a very fascinating city when it comes to Black history. It's so many more stories than the ones I shared that are in my book. Yes, ma'am.
Did you use Midjourney or something? What's the AI?
Girl, yes, I use Midjourney and Ideogram.
That's okay.
Yep, yeah, that's what I did. I had to learn it too. Yeah, sure did. CapCut to edit.
CapCut.
Anybody else have any more? Awesome. My name is Te-Erika once again, and if you find me on social media, I'm gonna be Te-Erika with the T. So follow for more.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure having you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, Mr. Delaney.
All right.
Cannot really make it time.
Very good.
You know I'm here doing myself. Yes, sir. Oh my goodness. No way. No way. That's not no good to do. That's downtown. That's crazy.
We lived on Second Ave.
You gonna post that?
Oh my
So you
goodness.
go just under the underpass,
Oh my
Liberty
goodness.
City would start.
No way. I don't know that.
Yes.
I actually, what was funny, I was looking at your post today, and I was following you.
Hey, that's what I'm talking about. Hey, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Now make sure you always like so they can keep getting on your FYP.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
All right. Yeah, very good. Very, very good.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Child, I had me a good time.
I see.
I be having fun telling stories.
Uh-huh. Very good.
And those
Very.
stories are good too.
Uh-huh.
So is the exhibit for the Delta still up there?
Yes.
Okay, that's the only one I haven't seen, so I need to make sure to see it
Okay.
while I'm here.
Well, we have actually 2 new ones upstairs that you can check out.
Oh, okay.
One is on it's a art competition, 48 new artists have their work in Gallery B, and then we have one on baskets and ceramics.
Okay, okay. Is it downstairs or upstairs?
Upstairs,
Okay.
baskets from Africa.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody. Thanks for watching my presentation.
All right.